Professional football in America is a special game. A unique game. Played nowhere else on earth. It is a rare game. The men who play it make it so. Make it so. Make it so. Make it so.
WestOne Radio! It's time!
It's time from the Dago Dungeon. That's right, Murph bringing it 110%. Woo!
Why should we even be interested in what you have to say?
Shut up, Sonny. How many times are we going to yell at you this segment?
You run a thin league and you're all bad.
It's not Sunday no more. You can catch.
And I'm not your bro. I'm not. Don't ever call me your bro. I'm never gonna be bros. I'm not your bro.
What did you do, stupid? You didn't push the right button. I see this guy on Facebook tripping with K-Mad, tripping with West. They're talking, they're joking. Okay, he's not a bad guy. Come on!
Welcome to the show, Alan, Execution 99.
I'm not fat, I'm big bone.
What's that, he's fat?
What's up, Alan? You rocked me. That was embarrassing. I was texting Josh the whole time. What, was he going to give you pointers?
Hey, baby! We're going to be here all day, baby! I like this kind of party!
Welcome once again back into the Dago Dungeon South. Welcome into another episode of WestOne Radio, talking all things Madden 15, and most importantly, our online Madden 15 football league, WestOne. You know, it's mid-December. Christmas is rapidly approaching upon us, and glad to have my Raider tree up, complete with skulls and Jack Tatum ornaments, and my Raider Santa cap here. Hopefully, I can keep it on throughout the duration of the show. I get a little heated during our show. I get a little wound up, and I get hot. So I hope I can keep this thing on throughout the course of the show. But I might have to swap it out for the A's hat if it gets too hot. Anyways, thanks for joining us here on WestOne Radio. My name is Murph. I'm your host for the night, the Raider Gamer. You can reach me at the Raider Gamer on Twitter, the Raider Gamer on Facebook, on Twitch. I'm just Raider Gamer. Can't fly this ship solo, so of course I got to have a co-host to join me as we do each and every week. He is the Chewbacca to my Han Solo, the Scottie Pippen to my Michael Jordan, the Roger to my Bill Clinton. Welcome in the Madden gangster himself, Auden. I'm sure it feels good for him.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
I figured. It may not feel too good after we get into our first topic of the night. Welcome to the show, Auden.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
Hello to all the listeners in WestOne world. It is Alan, Execution 99, owner of the San Francisco 49ers in WestOne, and the co-host for WestOne Radio with the lovely, wonderful, and a little bit too hairy, but not on the top of his head, Josh Murphy.
I know that's true. Wow, that's quite a resume you got there, Alan. You might have to start including co-host of WestOne Radio on your resume when you go to do like job interviews and stuff.
I mean, I think that's what most job employers are looking for. Like, I think WestOne is a pretty big deal out there. You know, I think it's tens
of listeners.
It's expanded past just our little league. I mean, we've already been banned in 3 countries, so that's pretty big.
That's right, and we consistently perform above the total ownership of our Madden league. So someone out there is either listening to us multiple times, probably K-Matt. I think he likes the sound of your voice. Probably K-Matt, but if not, some other, maybe guys from other leagues, maybe the CNFL guys are listening. And, you know, Alan, not for nothing, but I think we do a little bit better of a show than we do. They have a limited run. I think that was like a mini series versus the ongoing, epicness of West One. We're like the Game of Thrones when it comes to online Madden Football League podcasts. And those guys are like, I don't know, Return to Mayberry or something.
Well, Josh, I was going to make a string of jokes about our listenership, but since you bring that up, in all seriousness, it's somewhere out there we are being heard by other leagues, because some of the forums might know, or some of the league might know. I know you know, and I think Sonny knows. I'm pretty active on Operation Sports. And I remember one time during last year's Madden run, I'm posting on the, franchise thread talking about here's how my season's going and everything. And someone sends me a private message asking me like, hey, like you're West 360, you're in that league? Like, I know all about that league. Like, do they still do the radio shows? I used to listen to that all the time. And he's not someone that's ever played in our league. He's in like another league somewhere. And this was a long time ago, so I don't even remember which one it was. But he knew about us, and he was hitting me up on the forums about like, oh, you're in West One, that's awesome. Like, when are you doing the radio show again? I want to tune in. So if you're that guy from Operation Sports, welcome.
Welcome, and thanks for joining us, that guy from Operation Sports. That's awesome. That's good to hear. It's and I'm not getting too in the weeds on this because it's probably not as interesting to other people listening as it is interesting to us, Alan. But you know what? I don't do this because we have a bunch of people or not a bunch of people listen to us. It's just fun. This is something that I would do if there was nobody listening to us. It's just a good time to get on here and play Dan Patrick for a couple hours every week. You know what I mean? It's just fun. It's kind of fits that RPG thing, and it just I don't know. It scratches an itch, a creative itch. It's fun. So
It's definitely fun to have our own personal little sports center on the internet. And I mean, my mom's out there with her multi-box. She's got probably 5 computers hooked up to the radio show right now. So there's half our viewership.
All right. Well, we thank you. Thank all the West Coast.
My mom and that guy from Operation Sports.
That's awesome. Oh, man, that's awesome. Okay, well, good deal. Well, listen, we're thankful for everybody that's paying attention to us. As many or as few of you as there is, it is much appreciated. And so for anybody that is in our league, though, and you want to be a part of the show, text or private message Alan your number on Facebook, and we'll reach out to you. As I mentioned before, but maybe for those that aren't as familiar with the show, there is no way for us to call you. There is a software package to add on to Google Hangouts that makes it so we can call you, but it hasn't worked since we've done this show. And that was actually one of the reasons we chose this format that we did, besides the fact that it uploads to YouTube and archives automatically so you can listen to anything anytime you want. But that was one of the reasons that we chose this, because that way we could reach out and call you, or have you call into the show. I think I messed that up. Have you call in. It would give us a number per hangout. We could give you the number and you could call in. But anyways, that doesn't work, so we have to reach out to you in order to get you to join. So let us know what your phone number is. Some of you guys, our longtime owners, Justin and K-Matt and all of you, you could just text me your number. That's fine. I already got your number. But for some of our newer guys, maybe who haven't been on the show before or didn't have an interest or couldn't or whatever until now, let Alan know your number. He'll get it to me. I'll call you, and we'll get this thing going. So anyways, thank you to you guys once again. And Alan, we always like to kick off the show with something maybe not necessarily league related. Sometimes it's NFL related. Sometimes it's fanboy related. Sometimes, it's just a celebration.
Sometimes it's just personal.
Sometimes it's just personal. Yeah. But tonight, Alan, we're gonna do a little celebration. I'm gonna skip the Kool and the Gang music, but I do have something that I think you might like.
The Raider Nation!
when you have great coaches, then after you have great coaches, you get great players. You have a great organization, and you tell them one thing: just win, baby.
Just win, baby. That's right, Alan. The Oakland Raiders took on the San Francisco 49ers in a fantastic football game this last week. In the Oakland Coliseum, the dilapidated, the beat down, the Mordor-looking Oakland Coliseum took on those San Francisco 49ers and marched to a victory, just like in the Age of Men, when they marched through into Mordor and slayed all the orcs and took the ring and threw it into Mount Doom. Starting the Age of Men, so did Derek Carr march into Mordor and slayed Colin Kaepernick and all those chumps in green, or not green, all those chumps in gold and red. He slayed them all. 22 completions on 28 attempts, 252 yards and 3 touchdowns. The kid made a statement. Allen, the silver and black is back. Latavius Murray with a huge game. And my favorite stat line, Michael Rivera, Marcel Reese, 7 receptions each, 1 touchdown each. That's a stat line pulled right from the Raider playbook, right from a Raider game, right here in West 1. Alan, it was a great day. I thought beating the Chiefs on Thursday night in primetime was great. Man, that was awesome. This was a nice compliment to it. So congratulations to the Oakland Raiders. I'm kind of bummed we may not get the number 1 pick and trade it away to someone who's desperate for Marcus Mariota, risking our chances of not getting Amari Cooper. But that said, it's okay. Just win, baby. 2-11. The Raiders are back.
Just win, baby, twice, but that's okay. I talked a lot on the Facebook page about my feelings of the quote-unquote 49ers-Raiders rivalry. I mean, I can get into that on the air, but I will say congratulations, you guys won. There's nothing to take away from you on that. As a 49er fan, I can honestly say that, I mean, I was already teetering on the edge anyways, but this game is the game that finally kicked me completely off the Colin Kaepernick bandwagon. I'm off the Jim Harbaugh bandwagon at this point. I hope they all go after that. Jim Harbaugh was brought in to be an offensive mind, and that's the display that we haven't had a fourth quarter touchdown the entire season except for one in garbage time from Blaine Gabbert. I think it was against the Broncos when we were getting blown out so bad. I mean, I've been through a lot of bad seasons as a 49er fan, especially with this last decade before Jim Harbaugh came around, but nothing has enraged me as a Niner fan the way this season has. The way you get rid of an Alex Smith for Colin Kaepernick, and Colin Kaepernick proceeds to allow Richard Sherman to make him his personal B. And
wait a minute. Wait a second. Hold on. What did you say?
I said Colin Kaepernick has allowed Richard Sherman to make him his personal B.
I'm the best corner in the game. When you try me with a sorry receiver like Crabtree, that's the result you're going to get. Don't you ever talk about me.
Who was talking about you?
Oh my gosh, Richard, who is talking about you?
Crabtree, don't you open your mouth about the best. Or I'm going to shut it for you real quick. LOB.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to hear that one more time.
Of course you did. And I know Sonny did, and RJ, and all the Raider fans out there. But
who was talking about you?
That was the best part of that whole interview for me, because Kaepernick's like,
she reverts to Valley Girl. Oh my gosh, Richard, who is talking about you?
Well, there's that, but there's the fact that she's right too. I don't remember anyone talking about Sherman before the game, but I don't know. Sherman, he does what he does. But right. Congratulations to the Raiders. I know how important the Raiders-Niners game is to Raider fans, and And beyond that, though, to get a win against, even though they're down, the 49ers have been one of the premier teams in the league the past few years. You guys came in, got a big win against a big-time team, and I heard all the talk on the radio leading up to the game, and the game proved it. Derek Carr has better tools for long-term success than Colin Kaepernick. You guys have the better quarterback than we do.
I think so. I think so. It's been a long time, too, since the Raiders had somebody they could hang their hat on. And it's been a long time since we've had a good young quarterback, as great as Rich Gannon was throughout his years wearing the silver and black at the back end of his career and won an MVP and took him to a Super Bowl and all that. As amazing as he was, that you knew that he was always, unfortunately, and it proved to be true, one hit away from being out and being done or being on the verge of having his skills decline because of his age. To have a good young quarterback, Alan, I've been a Raider fan since 1983, 82, something like that. I mean, it was really my whole life, but conscious and actually paying attention to them as a kid and wanting to know whether they won or lost and looking at stats. And we've never had that. I mean, we've never had it. When you look at, Plunkett was like the first quarterback I can remember the Raiders having that I rooted for. And I remember thinking he was an old man back then. You'd have to go all the way back to when they drafted Stabler. I mean, because if you think of the guys that we've drafted that were our young QBs with quote potential would have, Tom Marinovich, Jamarcus Russell, these. I mean, you're talking some of the all-time biggest busts in the history of the NFL. To now, though, we got a guy that he's not only is he a great athlete, he's improving rapidly, he's smart, he's fun, like he's got personality. Like, I'm not trying to overstate here, and I know this is a lot of my Raider fandom talking, but this is a guy that could be a marquee player in the NFL. Like you know what I'm saying? Like if the Raiders actually turn this thing around and start winning some games, he's going to be on like Subway commercials and stuff. And he's the kind of guy that you want your kids to root for because he's like, he's like a solid guy, strong in faith and just, I don't know. I'm encouraged, man. I'm really excited about Derek Carr. You hit it on the head and and Kaepernick, dude, that guy, Alan, I just don't think he's very smart. You know what I mean? I just don't. Donald, we'll need you to mute your phone there, buddy. Donald, we could. Yeah, thank you. There we go. Yeah. So, Alan, I just don't think he's and I've touched on this numerous times about when we look at him with the dolphin hat thing and all that kind of stuff, and how that was maybe to him it was overblown, but the outsiders look at him, we're like, yeah, but come on, you gotta be smarter than that. You gotta know not to wear another team's hat, and you can't rock another team's gear. So that to me was just like a little sliver, but it's really blown into this much, much bigger thing. I think that he just not doing himself any favors, we talked about the Richard Sherman thing already, but Alan, here we go. You said Richard Sherman, turned him into his personal B. Well, C.O. Moore turned him into his personal B.A.M. Alan, that was at halftime of the game. Look, it was C.O. Moore out of line waiting for Kaepernick to come in, and was he baiting him a little bit? Probably, but you can't. You're a starting quarterback in the NFL. You can't be John in front of guys, in front of cameras, in the tunnel. I'm coming for you. Now, is that? I don't know. I mean, we know Tom Brady talks a lot of junk. He drops F-bombs like crazy. There was a big thing on him this last week about, he said something to the effect of, well, don't blame me, blame the networks for capturing my sideline demeanor and all that. I get it, and it's an emotional game, and you're capturing these guys but Kaepernick, you just got to know don't get hooked, I guess is what I'm saying. You got to be smarter than that. Am I making any sense there?
Yeah, and I want to rewind a little bit first because I want to touch on a couple things that you said about Derek Carr and savor this moment. It's not very often that I give Raiders praise, but all those things that you mentioned about Derek Carr, and there was a good point that I heard in the media this past week that, I mean, Derek Carr was drafted in the second round, high in the second round. It's not like this is just some nobody. And I know he was highly touted coming out of college as well. I do think that his name has hindered him and what people view him as, because his bigger brother had such a rough go of it in the NFL, whether it was his fault or not, and we're not going to get into that talk. But for a rookie, there's a lot of Niner fans that are still on the Kaepernick bandwagon. Oh, he doesn't have enough time in the pocket, the play calling, this, that, and the other thing. Okay, and Derek Carr did have a lot of time. Your offensive line did really good on the pass rush and held Aldon Smith and Aaron Lynch and all those guys. But there were times when the pocket did collapse and the pressure was getting there. And what did Carr do? He kept his composure, stepped up, found the open receiver, made the completion, like a quarterback should do. And rookie quarterbacks don't have that poise.
Right. Well, hold on. And let me say this, too. That's the first really time this year we've seen him do it that well. This has not been an all-year thing for Derek Carr. He hadn't had games like this all year long. He was actually really quick to get rid of the football historically this season. He'd get it out quickly to a check down or to a tight end and not work through his progressions across the field and step up like you're talking about. So, yeah, he's definitely still a work in progress, and I don't want to make it. I may have my delusions, but I don't have delusions that this guy is, all of a sudden Tom Brady. But because this was the first time we've really seen that maturity in his game.
And to get to your point about Kaepernick, I don't have a problem with the tattoos or the Kaepernicking, and a lot of people misunderstand what Kaepernicking is. They think it's him showing off his muscles or whatever, but it's in response to a rather racist article that came out when he first got the starting position that talked about nothing else but the fact that because he had tattoos, he was nothing more than a common thug. And that's what
that's stupid. That's dumb. And I hate
and
that.
So
man.
And so the Kaepernicking was in response to that, because if you look at it, his tattoos are Bible quotes.
Right. Yeah,
so thuggish, that guy. And I didn't have a problem with the Miami Dolphins hat. I did think that got blown out of proportion. What I did have a problem with was after the NFC Championship game, when someone like Joe Montana comes out and says, hey, this guy, he needs to work on his pocket presence a little bit and going through his reads and progression, and Colin Kaepernick's response to that is, I'm the one back there in the pocket, not you. I know what I'm doing.
Oh no, that's not a good. That's bad.
That's when it told me everything I needed to know about. Oh, so this guy is okay with ignoring all of his. If you watch that play, which I have a bazillion times, of the infamous Sherman play, there's 4 other wide receivers that are running wide open. All of them are at least for a first down. At least 3 of them have open lanes to the end zone. But does Kaepernick look at any of them? No, he's got to test Sherman. And this goes back to the whole C.O. Moore thing that you played. You talk junk about Kaepernick, instead of just going with the flow of the game, he's out to silence the haters and shush everyone. And so he'll go after Sherman 9 times a game to, as you put it with me in my game plan sometimes, to throw 9 picks, because he'll get that 1 touchdown eventually in 3 years. He'll score a touchdown on Richard Sherman and be able to say, see, I told you so. And that's the problem that I have with Kaepernick. On-field stuff, you can get better. You can improve. I don't care about wearing a Miami Dolphins hat. I don't care about tattoos or Kaepernicking. I do care about ignoring any and all criticism because you just think you're above it all. And that's why I know this is not the guy for this team.
Good point. Good points, Alan. All right. Well, I know I would love to sit here and talk Raiders, and you would love to sit here and talk Niners all night long, but we'll go ahead and move on. We'll see. I'm curious to see how the rest of the year is going to play out. Man, I really want Amari Cooper. I hope the Raiders can figure out a way to get Amari Cooper, and yet still.
I was reading something today that you guys are in the 5th slot right now, so that win probably did.
5.
Yeah, you guys screwed yourselves out of a good draft pick, so I guess even the Raiders can't win properly. But
I know, right? Well, the good news is I think we're going to get, and it's still probably a little early to talk draft. Well, maybe not. College football season's over, other than the bowl games. This is another deep draft, much like what we had last year. It's another deep draft. The Raiders obviously needed some kind of explosive playmaker on offense, but they also need safety help. They could probably use somebody else, maybe not necessarily in the secondary, but definitely on the defensive line to complement Khalil Mack. A poor guy gets double teamed every single play just about. We need a little more help in the interior of the defensive line. So anyway, there's going to be a lot of options there for the Raiders, even if they do fall to the 5th. And even if they win out, they're still looking at probably a top 10 pick. So.
Well, let's see what pick they even have, because all the speculation, let's keep that in mind, but all the speculation I'm hearing out in the Bay Area is that the Raiders are Harbaugh's destination, and they're willing to go big to get him because he still has a year on the Niners contract, so he's not out there. He can't just sign with someone. It'd have to be a trade. And I'm hearing the Raiders are willing to go big. I don't know what that means. Maybe that means Justin Tuck. I don't know. And Maurice Jones-Drew. But that was the last thing that I heard. The Raiders are willing to go big for Harbaugh.
All right. Well, let's hope that doesn't happen, especially after this last week. All right, Alan, let's move on. We need to get into to some West 1 Madden football. And, Alan, we're going to start off with our Week 4 scores. All right. Week 4, first game we have is the Jets and the Redskins. Redskins win this game over the Jets 44-26. C.J. Spiller, 191 yards and 2 touchdowns as the Redskins roll big over the Jets.
Well, I believe you mean Robert Griffin. C.J. Spiller was 177 and a touchdown. But this was our sim game. This was the beginning of the Jets sim list 2015. So Jets got clipped by a computer team. But, it's not the first team that's happened to. I guess there's shame in losing to the computer this year. I hear they're a little supercharged.
Well, and thank you for straightening me out there. Apparently someone was rushing through their show prep a little bit. All right, next up we got the Ravens and the Cardinals. I think I saw where Joe Flacco threw 383 yards and 3 touchdowns. 5 of those receptions went to Torrey Smith for 209 yards and 2 of the touchdowns. Ravens win a close one over the Cardinals, 29-24.
You are correct on the stat line this time. Congratulations. But I have to say this stat line is the stat line the Detroit Lions need to look at. You have your one guy who has a 209 yards, but you got another guy with 79 yards and another touchdown out there. The Ravens get a pretty good win here. Cardinals struggling this year. They've had a rough go of it this last couple of years. I'm not sure what happened. It's probably too late for this season, but we'll see if they make any improvements going forward.
Oh, Russell Wilson. For frequent listeners to the show, you'll know that's what my wife says whenever Russell Wilson comes on TV because she follows the Xbox Fitness workouts, and that's her guy. J.J. Watt, Russell Wilson, and I think Paul George maybe? But Russell Wilson is by far her favorite. And, Ellen, Russell Wilson. He threw for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Vikings. The Seahawks continue their path of destruction through the NFC in West 1, and they crushed the Vikings. 38-0, Terry. 0? Come on now. 38-0, Seahawks roll.
Yeah, I watched part of this game on Twitch, and I ended up having to turn it off because it was reminding me too much of the real-life Seahawks. And it's not just Russell Wilson out there. Adrian Peterson was held to 16 yards rushing. Terry can't even get the running game going out. So this is a complete team in Seattle, and Preston knows how to use the talent he's got. I mean, this is a team that they did lose in the NFC Championship game last year, but I mean they're the real deal.
All right, we had the Denver Donkeys take on the Detroit Pussycats. They're not Lions. You're not a lion when you throw 6 interceptions. Alan, what do we always say about throwing 6 interceptions?
You can't expect to win when you throw 6 interceptions.
You cannot. Certainly not against a quality owner, which Chris is. Peyton Manning, 245 yards, 3 touchdowns. Here's one, though. This is the stat line, Alan, that I'm curious to hear your thoughts on. Against that vaunted Detroit Pussycat defense, there's some big names on that defense, is there not? I think they got a guy named Ndamukong Suh. He's pretty good against the run. I don't know, rumors. Monty Ball, 25 attempts, 290 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Detroit rolls over.
Yeah, that's a little bit ridiculous. Even Jamal Charles hasn't put up those kinds of numbers in our league yet, although he's probably not far away from doing so. Well, that's probably what happens when you let go of your other defensive tackle. But the big question that I have in Detroit is, Jake Locker, why? There's definitely
everybody's hurt.
Well, there's definitely something personal going on between the ownership in Detroit and Matthew Stafford. They've been looking for someone to replace Matthew Stafford for some reason, because getting rid of one of the premier quarterbacks in the game is usually a winning strategy. They're not.
It doesn't make sense to me either. I don't know what this crusade against Matthew Stafford is founded in. I mean, a lot of us would be very appreciative to have the kind of numbers, the accuracies, and especially that throw power. I mean, that's elite throw power. There's only a couple guys in the game that have that 98, and so yeah, I don't understand it. But that's okay. That's I'll be the glad benefactor of the casualties in that offense as they trade away Golden Tate. The Detroit Lions do to the Oakland Raiders. We may get into that later. But anyways. All right, moving on. Speaking of Oakland Raiders, former Oakland Raiders in this case, Darren McFadden, the guy that I could never figure out how to use effectively in Madden 15. Apparently you have cracked the code on him as DMC gallops 22 attempts for 119 yards and 2 touchdowns in your game versus the Steelers. Niners win big 34-21.
Well, not to brag, but that's actually a bad game from Darren McFadden this year. This game, this was our 3rd attempt at playing this game, so it took me a lot of tries to finally get this win. Explosive offense from the Steelers, I will say that. I mean, Zach Baker had 410 yards and 2 touchdowns, but ultimately 3 interceptions did him in, and he didn't have much defense of his own, so I was able to run for 119 yards and pass for 323 more. So that's how you win 34-21 in this game.
Alan, who's the most overrated quarterback in the NFL?
Besides Colin Kaepernick?
Well, of course.
Phillip Rivers.
Phillip friggin' Rivers. 4 picks on the day versus the Dolphins. Alan, you can't throw 4 interceptions against a quality owner and expect to win. Dolphins win 37-22.
Yeah, especially when that owner is Chris Sims, especially when the opposing team as quarterback is throwing for 3 touchdowns and 304 yards, and they have a running game that they committed to, 26 attempts and 84 yards. I mean, that's not a huge yardage number, but I like the 26 attempts. It seems rarer in this league that our owners are committing to the run and sticking with it. I know I get away from it very easily sometimes. I think that I didn't watch the game, but I think that 26 attempts was crucial in this win. I'm just getting that feeling that committing to the running game and not abandoning it was a huge factor in the 37-22 win.
Alan, the Johnny Manziel pick list is in full effect as Johnny Football chucks 3 interceptions and loses a big game to the Rams, 34-14. Interesting stat here: the Rams' offense only scored 2 touchdowns, yet they scored 34 points. So some of those picks were going the wrong way. Johnny pick 6, 34-14. Rams win.
Well, if the history of West One this season tells us anything, it's that you don't need an offense to beat the Cleveland Browns because your defense will put up enough points for you. And Johnny Manziel continues that. I have not played the Rams. I have not watched a Rams game yet this year, so I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's in the drinking water out there or what, because last year they were a pretty run-of-the-mill, go in, get your win, call it a day kind of team. But now, after this game, 4-0 and ahead of the division, leading the entire NFL. I mean, they're undefeated at this point. Something's going on out there, and the stats only tell so much. I know rookie quarterback Nathan Clausen has been having some good games. I mean, kind of pedestrian with 188 and a touchdown, but no picks. That's always good. And when you got Johnny Manziel throwing 3, if you can throw none, you're probably doing yourself a pretty good job there.
In week 4, the Bears were rolling very, very dissimilar to what is going on in Chicago in real life. Wow, evidence that we're not a sim league here, as the Bears score 55 points against the Philadelphia Eagles. Jay Cutler, 330 yards and 4 touchdowns. Gosh, Alan, in real life, the offensive coordinator in Chicago is like crying in meetings, and like he's tweeting Jay Cutler, and it's just, you want to talk about putting the dis and dysfunction, man. The Chicago Bears are an absolute mess, but not this week against the Eagles as they win big 55-3. And Alan, you ever watch Game Day Live? The NFL Network's coverage of NFL Game Day on Sundays. Do you ever watch that?
Oh, yeah, sometimes.
They have an after show. After all the games are over, I typically will turn on, and they'll have Chris Rose will be on there with Michael Irvin and Marshall Falk and Deion Sanders, and they go over and they're kind of doing their recap of the games. And whenever there's an injury, Deion always kind of, right before they cut away and move on to the next thing, he always says, "Praying for you, man." Well, Alan, when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm praying for you, man.
Well, and I think that the Philadelphia Eagles speaks more to the 55-3 than the Chicago Bears. What do we say about interceptions? You have 6 interceptions from Nick Foles. That's only 2 less than he had completions. So something needs to change out there in Philadelphia, because it's been bad and it's been ugly and it's been badder and uglier in Philadelphia. So we'll see if some things can start clicking out there. But so far, it's been pretty brutal for the Eagles.
Aaron Rodgers is rapidly approaching becoming the greatest quarterback, at least of this generation. He is just on an amazing tear this year. He's playing incredible football. He's dating Olivia Munn. I mean, this dude's already got 1 Super Bowl ring and is probably on his way to another one this year. Aaron Rodgers is on a roll, man. He's on a roll in West 1, which is, man, it's really tough for us to give Josh Norman props around here. We called him a big stupid last week, and he's still a big stupid. You can win them all, Josh, and you'll still be a big stupid. But he's got the Packers rolling, Alan. He beat the Saints this last week in Week 4, 27-24. The New Orleans Saints had got it together. Tom's playing great with his team so far in Madden 15. And so for Norman to take Aaron Rodgers to 2 touchdowns to 251 yards against this Saints team and come away with a close win, it's pretty impressive. You big stupid.
Well, the goose egg under the interception column is what stands out for me for Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers, if it wasn't for injuries all last season, would have been competing with Johnny Manziel for that interception record last year. This might be the first time I've seen the Packers not throw an interception in Madden 15. So good job to Josh Norman getting his team some discipline out there. The running game's still not great, only 56 yards for Eddie Lacy. But his defense stepped up a little bit, got 2 interceptions off of Drew Brees, held him without any touchdowns, although the rookie Traylon Belton did rush for 3 more, so maybe the run defense isn't so hot out there in Green Bay. But this has been a huge turnaround from last year's fighting for the number one pick to now fighting for the number one seed in the NFC. Josh Norman has the Packers back to where we expected them to be.
Well, somebody that's not where we expected them to be is the Tennessee Titans. Steve S., Holy Toledo, former Super Bowl champion with my Tennessee Titans, is just straight struggling. He struggled again in Week 4 against the Texans. So kudos to Linden and his Houston Texans as they win a big-time divisional game over those Tennessee Titans, wins 25-18. And Alan, Julius Spence, that Julius Spence, the hot commodity coming out of the draft, Julius Spence. I'm kidding. I didn't know I have any idea who Julius Spence was when I was going over the box scores this week. I saw that he threw 186 yards and 2 touchdowns, and I'm like, who is this guy? Well, Alan, I clicked around a little bit on Madden Daddy and looked at some of his attributes. Pretty impressive. Okay. Oh, also wanted to mention 17 completions on only 22 attempts, so great completion percentage also in this game. He's got 92 throw power, 87 short accuracy, 85 middle, 78 deep, 78 play action, and 75 throw on the run. That's a solid rookie. So kudos to Linden for picking this guy up. I don't know where he was drafted. I should have wrote that down. I don't know where he got him. I don't know where he was targeted. I know that that Linden wanted to get a quarterback in this draft. And Allen, he got his guy. He got his guy. Good-looking player, and again, a good win against the Titans in Week 4.
Well, Julius Spence was drafted in the first round, 17th overall, out of Michigan State, and all those attributes that you listed off are great. But the other one that stands out to me is fast development. This guy is going to get good, and he's going to get good quick to make up for any deficiencies that he does have. Houston might be onto something there with this good young quarterback. They did trade away Arian Foster, but that didn't really matter as Marquise Stewart runs for another 91 yards, so the running game's still going strong out there in Houston. That's another rookie drafted in the 3rd round. So Houston has some good young pieces out here. We'll see if they can all click together. Unfortunately, they're playing in a pretty tough division, but they got some pieces to start getting it all together here in the years going forward.
Clearly, Allen, someone in Atlanta is a big fat cheater.
Well, obviously.
Barkevius Mingo has 6 sacks in Week 4. Not after Week 4. Not in the 4 weeks. Not in the 4 games consisting of the 4 weeks of weeks 1 through 4. No, in Week 4, a game. Barkevius Mingo, 6 sacks. Falcons steamroll the New York Giants 27-10. Allen, when we see a stat line like that, now look, we know that EA botched some of the attributes and progressions, and maybe we'll save this discussion for after we go down the scores. In fact, we will. I'm going to ask you something after we come out of the scores, and I'm curious to get your feedback. Right now, we'll just leave it at the score. Falcons 27, Giants 10.
Well, that's not the first time he's had 6 sacks, but again, we'll talk about that later. But I mean, it's the same story in Atlanta. You have efficiency from Matt Ryan. You have Jacquizz Rodgers as the focus of the offense. 136 yards, 2 touchdowns, 33 attempts. I guess like nobody wants to tackle Jacquizz Rodgers. I mean, I guess maybe he covers himself with boogers before the game. I don't know, but And then you have Julio Jones going off for 122 yards. So it's kind of a pick your poison when you play Atlanta. I haven't played them yet, but I've watched a few of their games. I know they're the defending champions, and that's why. Talent on offense and efficiency.
Well, speaking of covering yourself in boogers, Andrew Luck and his booger beard threw 5 interceptions against the Panthers in Week 4. Lost the game by 1 score, 30-24. Franklin Goober.
Well, so much for that whole. The AFC is so much better than the NFC. You have one of the AFC's elite teams.
No. Don't you put that on him. Don't you gloss him like that.
Okay, but one of the AFC's elite teams just got beat by one of the NFC's not quite so elite teams. So maybe a little balancing of the powers there.
Gloss came out on this show.
But and not only that, but where did it come from?
Almost came out of my chair on that one, Alan. You glossing on the show.
The running game was non-existent. Darren Sproles had 19 yards. Cam Newton had 8. That was the rushing game. So there was one thing going on.
Don't you ever gloss came out on the show. Come on, Alan. Keep the perspective, buddy. Big picture now. You know what you could start by doing that? You know what kind of a monster you could create and unleash on our beloved Madden Football League if you start feeding that guy's ego? Calling him elite? How many championships has he won? He's not elite.
He did have one of the best. I think he had the best record in the league last year. I mean, he can't.
Elite. That's not elite.
Well, in the AFC, that's what they call elite.
Andrew Luck elite? Now, real life football, is Andrew Luck elite because he wins a lot of football games? No. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, maybe Drew Brees. That's elite. You're talking the best of the best. Is K-Matt the best of the best with no championships? No. Come on now.
Well, Josh Norman would say so.
That's true, too. All right, let's move on. I digress. Okay. Speaking of elite, because when you think elite quarterbacks in the NFL, you think Tony Romo. At least when it comes to epic meltdown failures late in the season. But Tony Romo wanted to get a head start on that this year, at least in our league. He didn't want to have to wait till week 14. Heck no. Let's start throwing just numerous picks here in week 4. 5 interceptions on the day against the Buffalo Bills. In the meantime, Justin Tsai found himself a running game. Yeah, that's good news for us all. Arian Foster, 28 attempts for 111 yards and a touchdown. The Bills punk the Big D 40-15.
Well, this is another one of those games that I started watching it for a little bit, and I quickly clicked off because watching a Peggle 2 broadcast was more exciting than this. This game got ugly, and it got ugly quick. I can see why DeMarco Murray only had 9 rushes on the day because, well, when you fall behind big early, you have to start passing big early. And when you have Tony Romo as your quarterback and you start passing big early, you start throwing picks big early. And then when you're doing that against Justin Tsai, you lose 40-15.
All right, the last game on the docket here is the Kansas City Chiefs and the Cincinnati Bengals, or as I like to call it, Lady Party. The Chiefs take on the Bengals and just absolutely destroy them, 26-0. Jamal Charles, 33 attempts, 222 yards. Allen, the Chiefs threw 12 passes in this game, and 3 of them were picked off. Guys, if you can corral Jamal Charles, Scotty can be beat. Like it said in Predator, if it can bleed, it can die.
Well, I have to correct you again on some stats. Jamal Charles was 227 yards, not 22. And the Kansas City Chiefs threw 16 times, not 12.
Okay, Captain Math.
They completed 12 passes. So let's get our stats correct.
Whatever. Semantics. Semantics.
Granted, the Kansas City Chiefs obviously is going through Jamal Charles here. And obviously the Jamal Charles is on performance-enhancing drugs. This Kansas City Chiefs offense is cheating somewhere. I'm calling shenanigans.
Listen, you can't go just anywhere for this kind of in-depth analysis and accuracy, Alan. I'm telling you, we are definitely on top of our game, and by you.
It takes a special bunch to go on the air live on the internet for the entire world to see with incorrect information that's right in front of you correctly.
You know what that is? That's balls, dude. That's balls, man.
Exactly. That's, we push the limits here on WestOne Radio.
That is exactly right. All right, well, how's this for a segue? Speaking of pushing the limits, we're going to return to the Barkevius Mingo discussion. And Alan, there's a couple of things that I'd like to talk about, that I'd like to and listen, first off, let me say this. I absolve any of our owners from any attribute attainment that they get on any of their players from here to the end of this run onto Madden 16. EA clearly made a mistake in, I'm not going to pretend to know, I don't know about the development of a football game, but I'm sure there's some algorithm or there's some method to how players develop. And we know that Johnny Football's broken. We know that there are other players that are broken in as far as the speed. I could even add Cleo Mack in that, as far as the speed at which they develop. Then when you couple that with the fact that the more you win and the more dominant you are in those wins, the more XP you're going to accumulate, and essentially we get a snowball with somebody like a Barkevius Mingo who plays on a team that rarely loses, wins big typically, and so they're going to hit their team goals. He's going to hit his player goals. They're going to play in more games because they're going to be regularly in the postseason and advancing deep into the postseason. So we're going to get this snowball effect, and it's essentially going to turn into haves and have-nots with a lot of these players. Now, that's not an indictment, again, of what Salty may be doing with Mingo. It's not. He's just doing what he's supposed to do, being competitive, learning to play his players, taking advantage of the things that EA provides there to develop the tools to develop a player. So there's no glitch. There's no nothing. But that said, Alan, do we have a problem with the development of some of these players? And then my second part of this question is, how much onus do we need to put on your opponent? And listen, Caruso, I hope you're listening at some point to the show, and this is not calling you out or trying to punk you or make fun of your game or anything like that at all. But when you allow 6 sacks, what are you doing? Why are you not have a tight end over there? Why do you not bringing in a running back? Why are you not getting down into tighter formations, running the football more? So Alan, so number one, do we have a problem? And number two, is it more of a problem because guys are letting their opponents go off on these stats and not playing their teams as competitively as maybe they should be?
All right. Well, I have a whole lot of points because, like, as I mentioned earlier in the show, I'm on the Operation Sports Forum, so I've read a little bit about the sacks issue. So first, I will say the onus is the onus is on your opponents because you need to be able to figure out how to adjust. And that's always been my mantra in this league is, are there things that are cheap or cheesy in this game? Yeah, sure. There's things that probably work a little too regularly than they probably should or what have you. But there's nothing in this game, well, apparently except that wide receiver screen thingy that was a conversation that I don't even know what's going on. But there's nothing in this game that is impossible or even all that complex to stop, whether it's the tight end post or the comeback route or the read option or the angle routes or whatever it might be. Now with sacks, it's the same thing. You can max protect, you can motion guys over, you can throw quicker routes, you can put your guys in shotgun, you can do whatever. What I will say is that I have read that there are issues with the sacks. This has been an issue going back, kind of the warning signs going back for a few years. You and I have talked about it in our personal Madden game sessions where for whatever reason a right end can't get off of a left tackle, but your left end will rack up all the sacks. And I know a lot of our players, yourself, myself included, have made those kinds of adjustments to put our premier pass rushers on the left side instead of the right, and we see the differences. So that's just an issue with Madden from the get-go. And then apparently there's another sack issue where the sacks are just out of control this year. It's probably because of the upgrades to the defensive line. I know I've had games where I've racked up 11 sacks in a game before. I mean, the NFL record is 8, and I racked up 11 sacks, kind of like nothing. So the sacks are kind of like the picks, are a little bit overpowered this year. Nothing that you can't stop with smart game playing, but it's a little overpowered than in years past. And it seems that that's how defense plays in Madden now. You're not necessarily going to get the 3 and outs or the bend but don't break defense, but you're going to get an abundance of sacks or interceptions. Now, the last point is going back to the progression issue, and I've had an issue with progression since they introduced this XP thing because it's completely backwards. Players don't develop their in real life, they don't develop their skills because they had a 100-yard, 2-touchdown game. They have a 100-yard, 2-touchdown game because they developed their skills. And I know it wasn't intuitive. I know that it was, for lack of a better term, boring because there was no player interaction with it. But I felt that what Madden used to do in years past with a potential grade of A, B, C, D, or F was so far superior than what we have now. Because it wasn't based on stats. It was based on this guy might not have all the stats you want now, but he's a good player. And that, to me, that potential almost measures the intangibles. If, we can take off our hindsight glasses for a second. Aaron Rodgers wasn't exactly thought to be the world beater he is now when he was coming out of college. There's a reason why Alex Smith was drafted above him. Was that the wrong pick? Of course it was. But they didn't think he was going to be the world beater. That was a weak quarterback draft class. But he had the potential. He had the mind. He was sitting behind a quarterback legend in Brett Favre. He absorbed all that information. So when he stepped into the starting role 3 years later, he was ready to go. He honed his traits. He didn't rack up a bunch of experience because he was throwing 300-yard games every week. He started throwing 300-yard games every week because he had potential. He learned. On the flip side, you had someone like Jamarcus Russell who had all the physical tools on the planet but had no potential because he didn't know how to utilize it. He had no work ethic. He didn't have the mental capacity for NFL football, and he busted out in a couple years. So I just think that the former potential system, which definitely could have been tweaked a little bit, and I think like how now when you create your coach, how you can buy all these attributes for them to help you with things like that. I think that would have been great to say like, I'm a coach that's great at developing rookies, so I have these A potential rookies, I'm going to get the most out of them. Whereas if you're a coach who's all about, say, getting free agents, well, maybe you don't get the most out of all your rookies, but, maybe free agents want to come play for you more. I think, go ahead.
You make a great point. I love that point, and I'm encouraged by something that you said there, Alan. Is that I agree with you. The potential grade and not having the player develop his attributes based on on-field performance. I think that's great, and I think that's essentially what we have now, though. When you change. Oh gosh, what's the freaking attribute? What's the one? Help me out here. The one that you boost up that gives your player more weekly experience.
The development.
Yeah, what's that called though? What's the name of that thing?
That's what it's called, the development trait. You can go from slow.
No. I'm sorry. There's an attribute. What's that attribute? Come on. Gosh, dang it. The attribute. There's an attribute you can develop that will give them higher weekly experience. What's that dang thing called?
Well, when you go and you spend your experience, you can go to traits, and there's the development trait that they all have it, but you can improve that, and they'll get more experience off of that.
Yeah, I understand that. There's another one. Gosh, guys, if you're listening, throw it out here. I can't believe I can't remember this darn thing. I'm not talking about a trait. It's an attribute that you can raise, And as that attribute grows, if you develop that player, his weekly experience will go up. Gosh dang it! What is that thing called?
I'm not familiar with the attribute. If there is, and I don't know about that. I only know about the trait.
There is, and it's the potential attribute. Gosh darn it! Where is that? Hold on, let me try to find it here. Anyways, you're right, and I think that will change your opinion if you look at that attribute. That if you raise that, then when you develop, okay, so Derek Carr. If I raise his number week in and week out, oops, somebody just posted up. Here we go.
Yeah, I just got a message.
Thank you. There we go. Okay, yes, thank you, Donald. Okay, it's the consistency trait. So, or consistency attribute. So if you bump your consistency, if you have a player that's got 20 consistency, okay, and you develop him with your hours that you have, your hour allotment every week, the higher that consistency number gets, the higher your weekly XP will be assigned to that player. Okay? That's why for me, Khalil Mack, or for Johnny Football, these guys that have that high consistency number to start with, well, when I develop Khalil Mack over 7 hours, he's getting like 800 XP. Well, you do that 3 times, now all of a sudden he's got 2,400 XP going into a week. It doesn't take, plus it's cheap to buy his attributes. It doesn't take long to get that dude to a 99 block shed. Okay, you see what I'm saying? So I agree with, so that's kind of a more expanded version of what you're talking about, where I think you make an excellent point, Alan, is that let's keep that model and then do away with the weekly XP. Now, if you want to do it to where you attain your goals at the end of a year, does that maybe add on to a player? Running for 2,000, well, maybe that's not even a good example. I was going to say maybe running for 2,000 yards, does that help you become a good player the next season? Well, it didn't for Chris Johnson. So maybe we just piss that whole thing away, keep the development to where, so that then that will prevent that snowball effect from happening. Then if you're winning those postseason games, if you're playing more games than other people, you're winning in with big numbers, then it's not going to create a disparity between at the pace you can develop a player versus another. Does that sound, you with me on that?
Yeah, and where I do like the experience is kind of what I mentioned before, is when you're playing as your coach and you're buying your whatever type of coach you make, because there's like 3 different kinds that you can make, and then each one comes with their own different attributes and traits and stuff that you can buy. I think that is how you should spend experience, not, oh, I rushed for 100 yards today, so I just got this extra experience for my running back, because what does that even mean? He got 100 yards, so he's all of a sudden a better player? Like that, because like you said, how many guys do have good games or even good seasons and then fall off all of a sudden? Having a good performance doesn't make you a good player. So I've never been a fan of the XP model. I am a fan of developing your coaches so that if you buy certain traits, then your guys will get more or develop better, whether it's with a consistency trait. Thank you, Donald, for giving us that information, because I wasn't even aware of it.
Yeah, that's a big deal too. If you're not putting points into consistency for your younger players, you're missing the boat, because if you do that early, and then when you start sinking XP into them, it'll double. Like it'll go from from that session, let's call it 7 hours or whatever. Sometimes they're 6, sometimes they're 8. Instead of like when you go on and you have like develop promising halfback, okay? Instead of developing that promising halfback and getting 300 points, now you're getting 800 points per session, depending on and I don't know how the scale slides. It could be 1-to-1. I don't know. It could be or at least 10-to-1. If you have an 80 consistency, does that mean you're going to get 800 points? Maybe. And I know the development pace of that player fits in too. If he's a superstar, or fast or slow or whatever, I know that that changes the math there as well. But yes, absolutely, Alan. If you weren't aware of that, then I'm glad we talked about it, because it's a big deal. That's it. You'll make up for it. It's like an investment in that player's future when you decide to start developing him. So if it's like a backup quarterback, you brought up Aaron Rodgers, for instance. There is a perfect example of a real-life scenario where this system played out. Aaron Rodgers wasn't accumulating XP on the bench. What Aaron Rodgers was accumulating by watching Brett Favre, playing next to Brett Favre, working with Brett Favre, he was acquiring knowledge, technique, right? He was honing his skills so that when he did get his shot, he balled out. So essentially, that whole time, which was it, 3 years, 2 years, whatever it was, that he sat behind Favre, he was building his consistency. So then when he got into a game, now all of a sudden they're developing the player. Now the XP starts kicking in. You see what I'm saying? Like that, I think, is a great example of how this model works. But the caveat to it is that when you count the game XP, that's where the snowball starts. And that, I think, if we eliminate that, and when I say we, I don't mean like in our league, like tomorrow, like changing a setting to make it go away. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about game development, maybe for next year for Madden 16. Maybe that's the tweak that needs to, and then we'll finally find the balance. Let them develop, let them work consistency and XP in the off season and the practice stuff in between games. Leave the game performance out of the equation.
Yeah, and that makes a whole lot more sense to me. I mean, obviously you want to spend time developing your young guys, and that's what the practice sessions are for. And I mean, look at the real life NFL. A lot of guys get more out of younger players, or coaches. I mean, a lot of coaches get more out of their draft picks than other guys. I mean, when's the last time Bill Belichick has had a top half of a pick? You know, he's always picking late, and he's always getting production out of his rookies. I mean, obviously the Patriots aren't the same as they were when they won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, but they're in the AFC Championship game damn near every year because he's a good coach that knows how to get the best out of his players. So we have that model in the game. You have your coaches and you have your legacy scores and you have all the different traits that you can buy to focus on what you want to focus on to be what kind of coach that you want to be. Well, take player XP out of it, whether it's consistency or development or potential or whatever you want to call it. Have each player have those types of ratings that determine how well they develop, and then are you going to be a coach that's going to get the most out of them, or are you going to be a coach that misses the boat on what could have been a good player, but you didn't know how to develop them properly?
All right, good deal. Good points, Alan. Good topic, good discussion there, and I look forward to guys. If you got any feedback, I know there's a few guys listening now. A few guys are in on the Facebook page as well. Post your opinions on that stuff. I'll be curious to hear what you guys think about it as well, because I think it's something that EA is. I like the progression model. I like the XP thing. It makes it feel more like an RPG, but right now it's broken. It's a little broken, not entirely, but certainly big pieces of it, and I think that it can certainly be improved upon, and look forward to seeing what maybe they're going to come up with for next year. All right, Alan, so speaking of young players and their development, we've had so much owner interaction the past couple of episodes of WestOne Radio, we really hadn't had time to talk about our draft. We had a draft show scheduled that unfortunately we had to cancel, and so we just hadn't had a chance to come back around full circle to talk about the draft. Now, we're already a quarter of the way, actually more than that, as of last week's scores, or in the last segment scores, we're a quarter of the way through the season. So we're really quite a ways in to really talk about the draft as a whole, but there are a few things I would like to touch on before we get into our Week 5 scores. Alan, the draft to me this year was a lot more fulfilling than it had been the past couple of years. I think the structure of the draft was fantastic. The pacing of it, we had awesome owner participation. We had a lot of guys on, and I thought the flow of it, the controls, the in and out of the menu screens, the ability to find your scouted players easily, I thought all of that was great. I typically will go into the draft. I'll have my list of players. I'll have my list of positional needs and kind of best available thing. And so having that plus the game itself, the mechanic of the game itself, that was great. I thought it was great. And I really enjoyed the draft this year. Then, Alan, I was really pleasantly surprised at the talent. And so I'm not sure how many of these drafts you've been through. This is the only one I've done. I don't play in any other leagues. I don't do offline leagues. I know, though, that one of the big changes to the game this year was that now these drafts are randomized. They're not taking standard. They're not taking players out of NCAA. They're not taking 8 draft classes and then randomly populating them depending on where you're at in your season, which made it so guys could go and run Excel spreadsheets of the players that were available. It was kind of a cheat. Anyways, all this is completely randomized, so I don't know if they're all going to be like this or not, but if they are, draft picks have a whole nother level of value than they've had in the past. Historically, draft picks, the first 3 rounds, say, were valuable picks, but even then, they were questionable because of the dollar commitment that you had to make to some of these players. If you missed on a first or second rounder, you were screwed because you had all this guaranteed money tied up in a guy that maybe you wouldn't even start on your team. And then after that, rounds 4 through 7, forget it, they were completely worthless. Well, something that I noticed this year is it wasn't just me and my Raiders, but I noticed that a lot of guys found some gems late in the game. Alan, I got a 6th and a 7th rounder starting on my team this year. Fantastic players that I was able to find in this year's draft. So I know you have a list of some players, so let's talk about not only your experience with the draft this year, but let's talk about some of the hot rookies that have come out of it.
Well, just quickly before we get into the players, my experience with the draft, I mean, overall, this is kind of the same format that they've had for the last couple of years or so, and overall, I like it. I think it's a good format. I think it works well, and unlike last year's game, the draft wasn't bugged this year, so that was nice. My only complaint with it, and I know another owner brought this up, and it's not a huge complaint, it's more of a nitpick than anything, is I do think that some of the scouting costs to scout these players are a little bit too prohibitive. And I mean, what I mean by that is it costs 1,000 scouting points to find the speed of a guy, but really, how prohibitive is it for real life NFL scouts to figure out how fast a guy is? They have the combine, they have those stats released easily to the public. You don't even have to go to the combine to know how fast these guys are. So
That's a really good point.
It seems kind of weird to me that we have all these high scouting costs to figure out what these guys are when we figure that stuff out anyways. Obviously, I don't think
hang on, I'm going to interrupt you for a second because, Alan, you're full of good points tonight. That's an excellent point. That when these guys go through the combine, now if we're talking about lower round guys that wouldn't be at an NFL combine, I get that. Maybe your scouting points are higher there because in real life NFL you got to send out scouts to Hofstra or whatever, MTSU, whatever remote school, and it's logistically more difficult to attain the attributes of a player. I get that. But you're right. For the top guys that get invited to the NFL Combine, their height, their speed, their weight, their strength, all of that stuff. Heck, you even know their agility. You know what I mean? For those things that are actually evaluated in the real life NFL Combine, I'm with you. That's an excellent point. That should be the cheapest on those particular players.
Yeah, so that felt kind of weird to me, and I feel like we don't get as many points as we used to, and things are more expensive than they used to be. So I think it makes it
at cheaper least to get the actual figure, but it's not cheaper to unlock them. So to find out if a guy's an A, B, C, D, you know what I mean? That's cheap. It's you want to drill down to the actual number. That's where it gets more expensive.
Yeah, and so I don't know how it was for other guys. I think it was Shizani that posted that he had scouted every single player in the draft. Now, I don't know how thoroughly he did that, but
yeah, that could be one attribute, 1 5-point spend on each.
Yeah. So I don't know, and I don't know what other people's experiences were like. Obviously, a lot of guys that I had rated highly, so did the rest of the league, because we had some guys that went higher than honestly I expected them to go. So I missed out on a lot of guys, but then I ended up getting guys that I had barely scouted that ended up being better than the guys I originally targeted. So I'm sure everyone's experience was different. But yeah, I do think that we've had some interesting players this year, and I agree with you that the talent feels much more significant than it has in years past. And just take a look at our number one overall pick from this past season. Wide receiver Jimmy Dobbins goes to the Philadelphia Eagles. He comes out an 81 overall out of the draft. So that's pretty good for a rookie. And you look at, he's a wide receiver, so you look at his important stats. He's got an 88 catch in traffic, 89 spectacular catch, 89 release. His biggest weakness is route running, which is 79. But his star development is definitely going to help get that. And then you look at his other skills, a 91 speed, 89 acceleration, not the fastest, but that's still pretty solid speed. So that's our number one overall pick over here. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a lot of high stats on the year. So they're not getting the most out of him yet in Philadelphia. But I think that's a pretty good example of some of the talent that we have coming out of this year's draft.
Absolutely. That's a boy, he was highly touted. I know I was looking at him too. And he's big. He's got that 6'3" frame, which is like we talked about in the last show with Justin Tsai. That's a big deal, because it improves that player's catch radius. The other thing I like about him is that when you look at typically at wide receivers, their carrying rating is, in the 60s, maybe 70s. This guy is an 88 carrying. Well, for those of you that maybe not know, carrying has a lot to do with a player receiving the football. That if a player before contact is made, that's your catch. Okay, so if you're just talking about a guy wide open with nobody around him, that's his catch rating. If you got a guy bearing down on him that's getting ready to hit him, that's his catch in traffic. But his ability to hang on after the contact, that's carrying. So a lot of times when you have these simultaneous hits and a guy comes down with the ball, that's not his catch in traffic. That's his carrying. Well, 88 carrying on a rookie player with 88 catch to go along with it, and his 89 spectacular catch and 88 catch in traffic, all that. This dude, there's your guy over the middle. I know that you spend a number one pick on him, and so obviously he should be a number one receiver. Not to me, dude. I'm putting this dude, he's only got 91 speed. He's not going to pop the top off of a defense with that 89 acceleration, but he'll destroy safeties, slot corners, and linebackers over the middle, and he won't drop anything. I think he's a fantastic player.
Well, another player that I highly touted personally, and I'm sure a lot of others did since he went with the number 5 pick in the draft, is Gary Mathis, the cornerback out of Florida. And again, we have another 80 overall coming out of the draft.
Where did he go? What team?
Miami. I'm sorry. Number 5 to the Miami Dolphins. He starts off with 91 speed, but the big one, 97 acceleration. I like acceleration because it's that quick initial burst. So I think acceleration is going to be huge for a corner. And listen to these coverage ratings. Man, 87, zone 85, press 89. Those are better than a lot of veteran cornerbacks, and this is a rookie coming out. He's got average development, so he's not going to get the quickest XP gains, but he doesn't need them. There's not many huge weaknesses already off the bat. He's fast, and he can cover in pretty much any way that you need him to. I was hoping he was going to drop to my pick, but unfortunately I was a lot further down than number 5. I like this pickup for Miami.
Yeah, that 97 acceleration is pretty awesome. Alan, he's also got an 80 truck rating. Maybe put this guy on special teams and have him return a kick or two. Of course, he's only got 65 elusiveness, so that's not going to help. But, heck, with that 80 truck rating, Josh Norman could use him at quarterback. I agree with you, man. This guy's a phenomenal player. Again, with the size, 6 feet tall. That's big for a corner. Has that improved catch radius. 62 catch, not the best. I mean, DBs don't do a good job of catching anyway, so 62 isn't helping his cause there. But with that improved catch radius, he's at least knocking the thing down at 6 feet tall. So and then obviously, like you touched on, 97 acceleration. That's huge. That's the 91 speed is way less important than that 97 acceleration, because that guy's going to get into position quick, and he's also got an 82 pursuit, so that after the reception is made, even if he's playing off, he's going to get into position in a hurry because he's going to recognize it fast and he's going to get there fast.
Well, and big. If this was the real NFL, this would be the big story of the draft. We got Trevor Rhodes going to the New England Patriots in the 5th round. He's the quarterback out of Washington, and from all I can tell, he's the new guy in New England. He has overtaken Tom Brady's starting position, and with a throw power of 95 as a rookie, you probably can't blame them out there in New England for making the switch to the new young guy. And his accuracies aren't horrible. His short accuracy, 83, medium is 83, and deep is 84. Those aren't great numbers, but they're definitely numbers that you'll be able to pump up pretty decently. And with a 95 throw power, I mean, you'll be able to zing them in there to all your receivers and to Gronk. And he seems to be panning out pretty good so far. He is injured right now. He's out for a week, it looks like. But in the early goings, he's already got 862 yards and 7 touchdowns. He does have 9 picks, but rookie trying to get used to the new guy that's not Tom Brady. It's not too bad out there in New England.
Another size guy too, 6'6", 232 pounds. I mean, that's a big boy back there playing quarterback. While you laid it out there, on the passing numbers are fantastic when we look at the attributes. The only thing about him that makes me nervous is that I like to on my offensive players, I like to have a high awareness. Unfortunately, this guy is way off the mark there with only 36 awareness. I think that's why he's got the low overall and ended up coming out in the round that he did. Heck, this guy thinks he plays for the Red Sox. I mean, that 36 is a challenge, and that's going to definitely need some improvement, especially if you start getting into confidence issues with Trevor Rhodes. But absolutely, for where he was picked, 19th pick in the 5th round, this is a fantastic player. Just don't know if I'd want him to be my starter right away. Maybe good news for him that he got hurt early, so Matt Maturo can spend a little more time developing him and get him ready for when Tom Brady finally packs it up.
Well, another pick that I like is New Orleans using their 1st round pick on the running back Traylon Belton out of Nebraska. We have, again, another 81 overall coming out of the draft, and now this isn't even, top 1st round picks anymore. This is at the bottom of the 1st round with the 25th pick. You're still getting 81 overall. Speed, kind of, average at 88, but the acceleration, 95, the agility, 95, trucking is 85, stiff arm, 89, elusiveness, 87. And I don't know how accurate it is, but I have my theories about ball carrier vision, and this guy has an 84 ball carrier vision coming out as a rookie.
CPU only, buddy. CPU only.
I like this. I like this draft pick for the New Orleans Saints. It gives them an added weapon you already got Drew Brees and Jimmy Graham and Marcus Colston, but now they have a pretty legitimate young running back, and I know Browning out there at New Orleans has been using this guy and getting some good production out of him. So I would say this is a pretty solid pick for New Orleans late in the 1st rounds.
Well, and he's already got 10,000 experience points that haven't been spent, so you can certainly use those to to boost up a couple of things. Looking at the carrying rating of 75, that's a little low for a running back, somebody that you're going to give the ball to, potentially 20 times a game. And yeah, ball carrier vision, Alan, is a CPU stat only. I know that there are different speculations out there. I know that you're frequent Operation Sports, and I'm sure that that's been a topic on there. But actually, not that long ago, maybe a year and a half ago, something like that, I reached out to Gibbs and Farrells, the guys that do the This Week in Madden, the little blips that come on YouTube, and they have the Prima Madden video guides that they sell every year and all that. They confirmed on Twitter for me that ball carrier vision is strictly a CPU, because when you're usering the running back, which we all do, you're the ball carrier's vision. You're the one that's seeing where the holes are. And I know that guys say, "Oh, it helps you slip through the line better." Yeah, it's all in our brains. It's not. That is strictly a CPU number. But that said, 84 is very, very good. So the only thing that I see about Belton, just that carrying. After that, this guy could look to be one of the elite dudes in running the football. 85 truck to start off with. I mean, with 10,000 XP, heck, that thing could be 90 right now. And that's now you're talking about doing something. An 95 acceleration with a 90 truck. Hello, you're plowing through the line of scrimmage.
Oh, and one of the guys that I think had a pretty solid draft also was our favorite, our beloved K-Matt out there in Indianapolis. He uses his first-round pick on Dextrell Tucker, the outside linebacker out of Florida State. And what I like about this guy as an outside pass-rushing linebacker is that 92 acceleration that he's got. That's strong. And he's also got 85 block shedding. He doesn't have much for the power moves or the finesse moves, only 74, 64 respectively, but he does have an 85 off the block shedding to start off with, and a 90 pursuit to go with an 84 tackle and a 90 hit power, plus a star development. So this guy with the proper development could turn into a big-time pass rusher. We've already talked about Barkevius Mingo out there in Atlanta, and what you can do with a top pass rusher. This guy could potentially become one.
Yeah, and that 84 tackle, 82 play recognition, and like you said, the 90 hit power, he is bringing it when he gets there. That's an impressive player. The agility of 85, that's going to help with those finesse moves. The strength, though, is only 79, so the power moves is the higher of the move number, only at 74. Maybe where typically I'm not a fan of sinking experience points into base numbers because they're so high. To develop strength, speed, acceleration, stuff like that, you're talking about big numbers. But if you're going to be dependent on his power move, you're going to want to get that strength up a little bit, at least to 80, at least get it up 1 point. Preferably, though, you start getting that thing up to 85 to go along with the power moves of get those into the 80s, and then that block shed should be in the low 90s by season's end. Yeah, this dude could be an absolute beast for K-Matt.
Well, and I did make one mistake. This was not K-Matt's first draft pick. His first pick was Tatarius Howard out of LSU, the cornerback. He had the 14th pick in the first round also. And this is a cornerback with fast development, 98 acceleration, 97 speed, 85 man coverage, 87 zone coverage, 81 press, not too great, but those are some pretty solid numbers to have for a rookie quarterback or rookie cornerback. I'm sorry.
Well, and this was an interesting caveat to that player, Alan, is that this would have been my pick. This would have been the Raiders, or this was the Raiders' first-round pick. I traded that away for Derrick Rogers and LaRon Landry, who essentially, this player, Tatarius Howard, was what landed Golden Tate in Oakland. So thankfully, that value worked itself out, because on the front end, we would have been looking at just Howard in exchange for Derrick Rogers and LaRon Landry, definitely came out more favorably. So I'm thankful that I was able to parlay that into Golden Tate, because yes, this is a fantastic player. Again, with the size, 6'2". That's a big old cornerback.
Well, my NFC West buddy, R.J. Ramondo of the Arizona Cardinals, got himself a pretty good pass catcher in the first round. Top 10 pick. With the 10th pick, he gets Decatur Hanna, the wide receiver out of Miami, and he's been putting them to good use so far. Already he's got 4 touchdowns on the year, 319 yards on 23 receptions, so he's an instant contributor out there in Arizona. He's got a long reception of 44, so he can break the game as well. So he's a playmaker out there. None of his individual games have been hugely stand out, but he's hovering around 80 yards or so a game, close to a touchdown a game. And you can see why. I mean, he's only a 77 overall, but he's a star development. He's got 94 in both speed and acceleration. So we all know how much we love speed in Madden. And in receiving, he's average catch ratings with 80 catch, 85 spectacular, and 76 catch in traffic, and only 78 route running. But it looks like they're getting the most out of him out there already.
Absolutely, and this guy also can return kicks too. He's got that 80 kick return, so you know that he can catch, and then he's got that 93 juke move and 90 elusiveness. So this guy could definitely break some tackles and maybe be a threat in special teams as well. All right, Alan, you got any more for us? You got maybe one more player we want to focus on, then we're going to have to move on to the Week 5 scores. We are burning daylight.
Well, just, I won't go into any analysis or anything on him, but I did have myself four picks in the first 2 rounds, so I got myself a couple guys that I was really happy with. I had my cornerback, Kevon Knox, who's a star development and pretty fast. Anton Grayson, who is Justin has taught me how to use that 6'6" frame and that 94 jumping. And in the second round, got myself Renardo Thompson, an 80 overall pass rusher on the right end, and Robin Hunt, a 96 speed wide receiver coming out of the slot. And I know you have a couple guys in Oakland you were happy with.
I did. I had a good draft, and Alan, we're thankful you had a good draft too. Come on, man, we got to move on. You got to go into your draft analysis. You're killing me.
We're moving on. That was the end of my draft list. Was my guys and your guys?
Nah, my guys are okay. I did pretty good. Yeah. All right, we really do. We got to get moved. We got to get moved. We are running way short on time. So, Alan, we want to get to the Week 5 scores. I know we had a couple other things. I swear, the divisional spotlight is going to be the oh gosh, what's the show where they always bump? Is it Matt Damon on Jimmy Kimmel, or what's the late night show where the one guest gets bumped constantly at the end of every? What am I thinking of? Come on, help me out here. Am I thinking Saturday? Oh, it's Saturday Night Live when they bump Lindsey Buckingham every week on the you know what I'm talking about with
I don't.
Oh, gosh,
I'm sorry.
I'm out here on the end of the limb, and you're sawing off the tree branch, buddy.
I'm sorry.
It's
I'm sorry, I'm not coming through for you right now.
Kenan Thompson used to do a skit on Saturday Night Live. I haven't watched Saturday Night Live in a couple of years, but he used to do a skit where it was "What's Up with That?" And at the end of the skit, they would always bump Lindsey Buckingham. That was the ongoing joke. Anyways, this is going down the well here. The divisional spotlight is going to end up being the Lindsey Buckingham of WestOne Radio because we're constantly running out of time and not getting to the divisional spotlight. That said, let's get to the dang scores. All right, Alan, Week 5, the Packers and the Chargers. The Packers continue their roll, 351 yards, 5 touchdowns between Green Bay's quarterbacks, and they roll 41-23 over the Chargers.
Well, what stands out to me is Eddie Lacy had 141 yards on 26 attempts. I'm not sure if Josh Norman has had 26 attempts for a running back in all of his existence in West One combined. So he went to the running game, and he won. Maybe that's a hint, Josh. Hint.
Steve, man, you've been a long-time member of our league, and we love you, and I'm thankful that you've been a long-time member of our league. But I'm going to confiscate these Tennessee Titans from you if you don't get your act together. Case Keenum is your quarterback. What has gone wrong with your Madden team to the point to where you have Case Keenum as your starting quarterback? Heck, John Skelton's out there. Come on, Steve, let's get it together. Case Keenum throws 5 interceptions against the Jets and loses 41-20.
Well, the Jets sim list 2015 went away, and the Jets hit list came back. Geno Smith, 3 touchdowns, so talk about not a sim league. But good balance. I mean, no individual numbers stand out from the running or receiving game, but anytime your quarterback throws 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions, you're probably going to have a good day.
The Buccaneers are rolling. Donald has got them going in the right direction. Takes on division rival Carolina. The Bucs, Allen, in this day, did it with defense. It's like Tony Dungy's Tampa and Monty Kiffin and the Tampa 2 are back. 5 sacks on the day, 2 interceptions, and they win 17-10 over the Carolina Panthers.
And I'm assuming one of those interceptions went for a touchdown, as the only offensive touchdown was a Mike Glennon touchdown to Vincent Jackson. You know, I've talked a lot with Donald on the Facebook page and everything, and he's new to the league, and he's trying to get his footing in and find out where he fits in with this league. But I really like this guy, and I have high expectations for this guy. Salty, if you're listening, you have a new friend in NFC South, and his name is Donald.
Andrew Luck, his boogery beard, finds 8 different receivers against the Houston Texans. I know this had to have stung a little bit for our Houston Texans owner. 287 yards and a touchdown from Frankenguber, and he wins a close one, 19-17 over the Texans.
And I think I heard a stat today that the Houston Texans have never won in Indianapolis in their franchise existence. And it looks like that continued into West 1. It looks like a home game for the Indianapolis Colts, who squeaked by a division rival. Get a win in the apparently highly competitive AFC.
All right, next up, Joik Bell. Is it Joik? Joiky? How do you pronounce that? I think it's Joik, isn't it?
I think it's Joik.
Joik? Hey, where's this guy? Some kind of Joik? That was bad. Joik Bell must have watched some Barry Sanders videos for reference, because he went bonkers against RJ. RJ, I know you're listening right now. Man, RJ, 0-5, bud. We love you. I know you're a Raider fan, man. You know, I wish you had the record of the Oakland Raiders in West 1 right now, because you'd have 2 more victories than you do. And, buddy, that stinks. Joik Bell and his Barry Sanders-like ability to run the football goes for 23 attempts, Allen, 185 yards and a touchdown. Still a close game, but the Lions win 33-28. Is Ostie back?
Ostee's not back. I'm sorry, Ostie. I love you, and I would love to see you take that division year in, year out from Norma, but we all know that's not going to happen. You're not back. But it is nice that Joik Bell was watching either Barry Sanders videos or Darren McFadden videos as he goes off for 105, like you said. But actually, that impresses me. How long have we been talking about the Detroit Lions and their entire offensive existence going through Calvin Johnson? Joik Bell had more yards than Calvin Johnson's this time. Like, I'm impressed. Ostie actually realizes there's 11 players on his team, not 1.
All right, next up, we had a divisional tilt, Allen, in the AFC North, as the Cincinnati Gals took on the Baltimore Ravens. Close game. This must have been a fun game to watch. 17-19. Bengals win a close one, despite the Ginger Wonder himself throwing 3 interceptions on the day. Close game there in Cincinnati. Bengals win.
3 interceptions and no offensive touchdowns. If you told me that going in, I'd obviously say that Domino was going to lose again. But he didn't. He picks up the victory. The Ravens kind of a little bit disappointing after their division win last year, but it's kind of how they started off last year too. I'll be curious to see if they pick it back up for another run or if, 5-11 is going to win the division.
The Bills in Week 4 really went to town with Arian Foster, but this week in Week 5, old Justin Tsai was back to his old ways, putting the ball in the air. It was an air show in Saxonville. The Bills win 31-17. E.J. Manuel, 4 touchdowns, 350 yards. Sammy Watkins, 10 receptions, 172 yards and a touchdown. The Bills, the most dangerous team in the AFC.
Well, the Bills are the most dangerous team in the NFL, I believe. And I think I said after the Week 4 game when K-Matt lost to the Panthers that he had just lost the division to the Saxonville Jaguars. Little did I know that they were facing the Buffalo Bills the next week. So K-Matt kind of got his win back. Don't feel bad about this one, Saxon. Justin beats everyone except Salty, apparently.
All right, next up, the Seattle Seahawks, your beloved Seattle Seahawks. I said last week, or maybe the week before, I don't remember, one of the last shows, about how Preston will grind you up with that defense. And he did that exact thing in Week 5 against the Steelers, wins 15-10. Sounds like an A's game. 15-10 over the Steelers, allows under 200 total yards. That's practically unheard of in Madden with that Seahawk defense. So congrats to Preston, moves to 5-1. Steelers dropped to 0-6 on the year. Very surprising.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see the Steelers drop to 0-6. I know they missed out on the playoffs last year, but having played against them personally, I know that that's a pretty explosive offense, except when they play Seattle, apparently. So I'm a little bit disappointed in how the Steelers are starting off this year, but it's not shocking to see Seattle get yet another win.
I love it when AFC West teams that are not named the Oakland Raiders play each other, because that means one of them's going to lose. In Week 5, the Chiefs and the Broncos played each other. No surprise, Scotty wins this one walking away, 17-0 over the Broncos. Jamal Charles, Allen, 27 attempts for 101 yards. What are you, going part-time here, Jamal? Sheesh.
Well, I have one thing to say about this game. 101-0. Do you want to ask me what that is, Josh?
Oh, please tell me. That is, are you telling me that Monty Ball ran for 290 yards in Week 4 and then didn't run for any in Week 5?
No. I'm telling you that in the last 3 meetings between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Denver Broncos, the Kansas City Chiefs have outscored the Broncos 101-0.
Ooh.
Three straight shutouts, including a 56-0 beatdown in the playoffs, a 28-0 beatdown in Week 2, and now a 17-0 shutout in this game. You think somebody has somebody else's number right now, Josh?
Ouch! I can't say that doesn't make me smile a little bit, though. All right, next up, we have the Dolphins and the Eagles. Dolphins win 25-7 over the Nick Foles-led Philadelphia Eagles. Ellen, Nick Foles, 6 interceptions on the day. Philadelphia Eagles, I'm praying for you, man.
Well, Nick Foles did throw 1 touchdown to that rookie Jimmy Dobbins that we talked about earlier on the show, so I guess Jimmy Dobbins just got a little bit towards his contract incentives. That might be about the best thing that I can. You have LaShawn McCoy who ran for 39 yards on 18 attempts. Like, come on, man.
LaShawn McCoy should be the East Coast version of Jamal Charles. I'm just saying. The Rams and the Bears, close game here. Rams continue their roll, move to 6-0 on the season. I called it a little prematurely last year. I said that MD Will was going to make a run in the NFC. I was 1 season off because he's making his run now. He's got his Rams right, Apparently he's got him built the way that better fits his play style because he's on a tear. Beats a pretty good Bears team who ran it up the week prior with Jay Cutler, but in this game fell short by one score. Rams win 27-20. Alan, the Rams ran the ball 33 times in a very close one-score game. The Bears ran it 6. That's dominant, buddy. That's control right there. So I'm thinking, even though it was a one-score game, the Rams had this thing in a lot more hand than it may have looked on the stat line.
Well, it's possible that it was 27-0, and then the Bears had to pass to catch up. It's possible that it was 27-20, and the Bears just decided, hey, why run the ball? It's not like we have Matt Forte or anything. But Nathan, not Jimmy Clausen, 204 yards and 2 touchdowns. The rookie's doing some work out there. Apparently, Sam Bradford's days have come to an official end. Actually, I think he's a free agent anyway, so yeah.
He is. All right. The Giants and the Cowboys must have been Sunday night NFC East, man, because they met up and had a close game. The Giants get it back on track. Cowboys are just dropping off. I thought the Cowboys were going to be doing something here after the first season here in West 1, but they've certainly dropped off. Giants win a close one, 17-14. These teams combined for 9 interceptions. Romo had 6 of them. Mr. Lanning. You can't throw 6 interceptions against a quality owner like John Caruso and expect to win a football game.
Well, I have no beef with either of these teams losing. I mean, if the power went out in Jerry World during this game, I would have been okay with that. 3 interceptions from the Giants, and it's not Eli, so that's surprising. But I believe Ryan Nassib, didn't he take the starting position last year, or is he a rookie this year? So low-scoring game, couple struggling teams right now, but the Giants pick up the victory, and congratulations, Caruso.
Alan, the last 2 games on the docket, this was not intentional, but they happen to be yours and mine, so we'll keep it brief. The Niners took on Touchdown Brown and his Washington Redskins. I expected this game to be a little closer than what it was, but the Colin Kaepernick-led San Francisco 49ers win 38-20 over the Redskins. Cap throws for 202 yards and 3 touchdowns.
And Darren McFadden adds another 100-yard rushing game with 111 and a touchdown. I will give Touchdown Brown a lot of credit here because we normally play close games that come down to some BS in the end. And in his defense, it was a much closer game until his punt returner fumbled the punt and set me up at his 30-yard. And that's where things kind of spiraled out of control. And I posted the highlight on the Facebook page of my, YOLO into the back of the end zone to my 6th wide receiver. Thanks, Justin, for teaching me how to jump ball.
Cheating-ass rocket catchers, you can have it.
That was... So, but I got to give props to Touchdown Brown. He and I always play close. This game was a lot closer than the score dictated. So, good job, Touchdown. I'm looking forward to our next matchup. We always play it close.
All right, last up, we have the Oakland Raiders taking on the New England Patriots, led by Jimmy Garoppolo and his 5 interceptions. Alan, you can't throw 5 interceptions against a questionable owner and expect to win a football game. But, hey, I tell you, are you ready for the puns? The meat and potatoes of this game was, you know what kind of potatoes I like, Alan? I like the golden kind. Golden Tate and the Tater offense. The newly acquired Golden Tate, 5 catches, 138 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It's amazing to me. I learned something new about Madden. When you get a guy that's actually above 80s in overall, he'll get open. I've never had one of those before. I've always had guys that could run 1,000,000 miles an hour in a straight line but couldn't create separation on a cut because they usually fall down, and it doesn't even take snow or rain. They'll just fall down for the heck of it, and my quarterback will throw it into the 3rd row. You know what I mean? But so now to have a guy that can actually run a route, can actually catch a pass, oh my gosh, he gets open. I'm amazed. I might actually try to get some more of these guys. You never know. Alan, I might actually throw to someone that's not named Marcel Reese. Raiders win 28-14.
Well, you always threw to someone that wasn't named Marcel Reese. That's what you gave me, Derek Carrier, almost a first rounder. I demand a recount from the trade committee on this, and petition the commissioner to drop the Oakland Raiders from the league off of the principle of having so many guys named Tate on your team. You have reached your quota. You've reached your maximum, Josh. Like, give it up. There's other players in the league, not Tate.
Hey, this is my meta game. This is the game within the game. Domino, I will give you every first rounder from here to the end of this Madden 15 game for Brandon Tate, just so I could bring him in and confuse the crap out of the defense. That is my Allen, and you know what I'm going to do? You know what I'm going to do? I just had this epiphany. You know what? Deal with this. I'm going to number them all consecutively. From now on, they're going to be 87, 88, and 89, and you guys figure it out.
I demanding recounts for this.
The Taters, buddy.
The Oakland Taters.
The Oakland Taters. Hashtag. Call me Tater Salad. All right, Alan. You want to do an audible? Let's do an audible and then get out of here.
Let's do an audible.
Hang on, let me make sure it's turned up loud. Let me get this thing. Hold on. Let's do this thing. I'm going to make this loud. Now I'm going to turn it off. Here you go.
I've had a lot of people ask what Omaha means. It's Omaha is it's a run play, but it could be a pass play or a play action pass, depending on the wind, which way we're going, quarter, and the jerseys that we're wearing. So it varies, really play to play. That's there's your answer to that.
Short eyes, Richmond, Florida, Buffalo, 27 double. Easy now, Rambo, 59, Louisville Soul Train. It's purple, blue the Raiders.
We got our Razor with 59 action. That's what you two guys on these two, basically. 59 Razor.
59 Razor. Black 59 Razor. 39 7. Ready? Out. Put.
Just snap the damn ball.
Welcome to the NFC West. William Alexander and the St. Louis Rams. A little bit late to the party. I wasn't sure what to expect from you last year, but this year you have arrived. You have arrived to the NFC West party. You have joined myself and the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks. Unfortunately, RJ out there in Arizona is the, kind of awkward, ugly girl with braces and glasses that didn't get asked to the dance. But the rest of us, we're playing some big boy football out here. You got other owners that want to compare AFC to the NFC or what have you. Well, I'm laying it down. The NFC West is back as the top division in West 1. 5-0, 4-1, 4-1. All roads through the playoffs go through the NFC West. You can have your Southern divisions or Eastern divisions or Northern divisions or Black and Blues. The NFC West is big boy Madden football. Let's dance.
All right, there you have it. Wow, that's I don't know. It might be a little ambitious there, calling them the best division, but I understand your bias. It makes sense. All right, Alan. Well, Lindsey Buckingham, the divisional spotlight is not going to make it tonight. I'm going to find one of those sound bites from that. I know I'm not making this up. I'm going to find something from that so we can start playing for the divisional spotlight. Oddly enough, guys, we wanted to do the NFC West tonight as our divisional spotlight. I'm not going to waste time asking you who your pick would be. Obviously, we don't have enough time to run down each of the teams. I know you would pick yourself, and you just gave props to Will, so I know that he would probably be maybe a next up. He's my pick. No disrespect to Preston at all. No disrespect to you either. I think that Preston last year proved to be the class of the division. This year, though, I think Will is definitely poised to take it, especially starting off with the 6-0 run. So I look forward to seeing how that turns out going forward. Alan, we are at the end of it. Thank you very much for joining us tonight on West One. Appreciate your rundown of the draft. Appreciate your willingness to admit the fact that your quarterback sucks and that the team that plays in San Francisco/Santa Clara is inferior to the one that plays in Oakland and won't have a home next year, and we'll be lucky if they play football in a parking lot in Milpitas. So
why didn't I say all that? But I said you had a better quarterback. I didn't say your team was better.
You admitted that your team is dog crap and that the Oakland Raiders rule supreme over the San Francisco Bear. We don't have to rehash.
One team is still 2-11. The other team is still, well, at least mathematically, in the playoff hunt.
I'm sorry. Were you done?
No. I keep going. I make the show 3 hours if you want.
Reverend Run says you're done. All right.
It's all right. RJ's excited for the show to end anyways. He wants to get this game in.
Oh, okay. Well, good deal. We'll make sure you throw that thing up on Twitch. So real quick before we go, guys, take advantage of Twitch. We say this every week. We're going to keep saying it every week. I love the participation that we have in the league here lately, especially with some of our newer guys like Donald, have really jumped on board with getting their games broadcast, using all the different websites, use Pro Boards, use Madden Daddy, use that stuff. It will enhance your experience. I promise you, it will make it more fun. It's more immersive. And if you are a football junkie, Madden junkie like most of us are, it will be a welcome addition to your game. So if you're not using those tools, I would encourage you to use those tools. Thank you guys for getting your games in on time. We are on a roll with the early advances. Let's keep that thing going. We've had some excellent shows of sportsmanship. I think our league is super healthy. I love our owner base, and I look forward to seeing where it goes for the rest of this year. So thank you guys for your participation. I'm kind of bummed we didn't get anybody call in tonight, or at least want to text in for us to reach out to you. Remember, guys, when it comes to this radio show, the more of you and the less of us is the better. So, get up, come on. Join us. Come on, join us. You don't have to stay on the radio for long if you don't want to, for whatever your comfort level is, but the more you can participate, the better off that we will be. So, but even those that just joined us on the live feed here, I know we got quite a few guys here that are listening live. Thank you for tuning in. You can catch it on YouTube. I'll post the link on the Facebook page afterwards, so you can always check it out there. You can also check out the archives, which goes back to when we started this thing over the summer. So thank you all again very much. Really thankful for your participation in the league and participation in this show. And Alan, thank you again for making time and joining us here on West One. We'll see what you and I will talk. We'll see if we can't get something put together for next week as well, maybe for next Saturday, right before Christmas. So that way we can have our Christmas show. Alan, what do you think about that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Christmas, I've already been Santa Claus at work for all the kids, so why not be Santa Claus for the internet, too?
There you go. Ho, ho, ho. And maybe the Oakland Raiders will bring me a win tomorrow against the Kansas City Chiefs. And who do the Niners have this week?
That team up in Seattle.
You are a terrible fan. You suck as a fan. No, you're a bandwagoner.
Excuse me? I said that team up in Seattle. I know who we're playing.
Okay. All right. You're stuttering on purpose.
I just know that we're going to get stomped like 45-3 if we're lucky. If we're lucky, we'll score 3 points.
Is it in Seattle?
It's in Seattle.
Yeah, you're in big trouble. All right, guys. Thanks again for joining us here on West One. Thank you, Alan. Man, I can't say thanks enough. This is so fun. We love this stuff. We love you guys, and so there you go. Be good. Be good. Get your games in, and we'll holler at you.
And watch your. I think you got a game tonight. I got a game tonight. Let's watch some Madden tonight before real football.
Oh yeah, that's right, huh? Yeah, Scotty, hit me up.
Twitch.tv.
Oh, go ahead, get your plug in. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say Twitch.tv/execution. Twitch.tv/RaiderGamer. I think we're gonna have a Murphy doubleheader.
Sounds good.
Because you haven't had enough Murphys for the last 2 hours. Let's come spend a third.
Thanks, guys. Good night.